Hello friends, today we are going to see the next topic of jurisprudence, that is School of Jurisprudence, and one of them is analytical school, or which is also known as imperative school, positive school, or analytical positivism as such. So let's start and see the topic. It is very important to see the analytical school of jurisprudence. In this video, we are going to see the categories, historical development, empiricism, division of law according to Mackenzie, the concept of positivism or analytical positivism, the terminology, the development made by the Bentham, Austin, H.L.A. Hart and Professor Raz. So let's start. First we'll see that the categories of jurisprudence. Accordingly, there are two kinds of categories of jurisprudence, and this is propounded by Bentham himself, who is known as the father of modern jurisprudence. According to Bentham, analytical jurisprudence and normative jurisprudence. Actually, these are the two kinds of people who looks towards the jurisprudence. Analytic jurisprudence, the area of law or the branch of law which studies meaning, uses and application of legal concept which are in existence or of actual law. And therefore, this branch studies what law is or the law as it is. The next kind is normative jurisprudence. This area of law focuses on the moral basis of law, such as what is the purpose of the law and what the law should be, and therefore this branch is also known as the law as it ought to be. These are the different two kinds of jurisprudence, and therefore the jurists have been divided into these two categories, analytic jurisprudence and normative jurisprudence. So let's move further. First, let's understand the history of the development of analytic jurisprudence, or which is known as positive jurisprudence. Historically, legal positivism is in the opposition of natural laws theory of jurisprudence, which we have seen in our earlier videos. Please, for more information, see earlier videos on natural law. The historical jurisprudence provides the historical aspect of the development of law. The legal positivism is developed in opposition to the theory of natural law. The natural law, which claims that there is a necessary relation between law and morality, or the law is based on the morality or the law of nature. While speaking on positivism, it is necessary to see empiricism. Etymologically, the term positivism is derived from Latin term ponere or positum, which means to put. The main antecedent of legal positivism is empiricism. The legal positivism or the positive law school is the development of empiricism. The empiricism means it is defined as the main idea of empiricism is the claim that all knowledge of fact must be validated by sense. Please note down the bold letters of the paragraph. The knowledge of fact must be validated by sense means unless and until the fact is sensed by our senses, then this fact cannot be considered as a real, and therefore the positivism believes in the law made by the God, but the law made by the man himself. The natural law believes on the law made by God, but we never have seen the God, or we never have seen the law given by the nature. There is no nature, there is no God according to positivist. But whatever the man has made for himself or for other man is the only law, is the only factual thing. Therefore, this is known as empiricism. On this basis, the positivism have been developed. The teachings of the empiricists preceded systemization of a positivist method. The thinkers of empiricism are like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, George Berkeley, David Hume and Auguste Comte. We have seen Thomas Hobbes and John Locke have also contributed towards the development of natural law theory. Therefore, it is said that the seeds of the positivism is sown by the Hobbes and Locke in their theories of jurisprudence. Then moving further, there are division of law or different laws propounded by different jurists. Thomas Mackenzie has also divided the law into 4 parts, and out of them 2 types of positive laws. First is the divine positive law, natural law. Fourth, positive law of independent states and the law of nations. The first 2, that is the divine positive law and natural law, are the important areas to study the law. Divine positive law, according to Mackenzie, it concerns the duties of religion and is derived from revelation. Therefore, this is not a part of positive law, but when it is codified in a scripture, then it becomes the part and parcel of law. It is concerned with the duties of religion. Next is the natural law. He contrasted it with divine natural law, which is recognized by reason alone without the aid of revelation. Revelation is a part and parcel of human consciousness. It is the inner aspects of human mind, whereas a natural law, which is recognized by a reason. Reason means human mind. There is a difference between human mind and human consciousness. Consciousness belongs to divine positive law, and mind, that is the human mind, belongs to natural law. Third is the positive law of independent states. It is the law posited, that is proposed or enacted by the supreme power in the state, that is the parliament, we can say. It is, in other words, man-made positive law. And fourth, the law of nations. It regulates independent states in their intercourse with each other, which is later on become as international law. Therefore, these are 4 kinds of law according to Mackenzie. Natural law we have seen in our earlier videos. For better reference, kindly refer those videos. And in these videos, we are going to see the third aspect, the positive law of independent states. So, let's start. Austin has separated positive law from positive morality. Positive law also concerns itself with the law enacted by the parliament, which we have seen. Then the first thing we have to know the concepts of analytical positivism. The legal positivism is a school of thought of analytical jurisprudence developed largely by legal philosophers during 18th and 19th century, and particularly by Jeremy Bentham and John Austin. Later on, H.L.A. Hart also contributed to this theory. This positivism originally developed to oppose the idea of natural law or divine law. Therefore, these 2 theories are considered as opposite to each other. So, let's start for better understanding and to see what exactly the analytical positivism is. There are different jurists who have developed the concept of analytical positivism. The prominent among them are Jeremy Bentham, John Austin, H.L.A. Hart and Joseph Raz. In this video, we are going to see the theories of these jurists. The analytical positivism, first we understand the meaning of the word analytical positivism. Analytical school is otherwise called as Austinian school, though Austin is a follower of Bentham and Bentham has propounded the theory of positivism, but it was later on developed by Austin. Therefore, this school is known as Austin school. It is also called as imperative school because it studies the law in practice. Imperative means a practical law. Therefore, this is known as an imperative school. Later on, the Dias has termed this methodology of studying jurisprudence as a positivism. Jeremy Bentham can be said to be the author of analytical positivism, but Austin is known as the father of analytical positivism. The theory of analytical school is developed by Bentham, and further it is laid down by Austin. The essence of legal positivism as a descriptive investigation of a particular legal order. In short, we can say what is analytical positivism? It is an investigation of particular legal orders. The particular is referred to a city, a town, a country, or group of countries also. But it is particular legal orders. Then the next terminology. There are two different terminologies which always been used in the positivism. First is a lex humana, means a human made laws which are regarded as the position of its origin, that is who it was that posited it. It is the man who posited the law. And the second is lex posita or is positivism, that is the positive law regards law from the position of its legitimacy. Positive law theory stems from the powers that have enacted it. That is a positive law which is developed by a man for another man, but particularly speaking by a person who is a politically superior in nature. He has made the law for the subject who is politically inferior, and therefore this human made laws, that is the lex humana, and positive law, that is the is positivism or lex posita, are very important terms. So let's start the Jeremy Bentham. He is known as the father of modern jurisprudence, and therefore it is necessary to see the theories developed by Jeremy Bentham. The English jurist and a philosopher Jeremy Bentham is arguably or possibly the greatest historical British legal positivist. He is the greatest legal positivist because he has a huge impact on the British system of law. In his book, that is an introduction to the principles of morals and legislation, Bentham has developed a theory of law as the express will of sovereign authority. Very first time, an author has clearly made that neither the nature nor the God is the law making authority, but it is the sovereign who makes the law through their will. Therefore, today we know that the statute means a written will of parliamentarian or the sovereign authority. Therefore, this definition is first coined by Bentham, that the law is a express will of sovereign. Now, what is sovereign authority? We know it. Jeremy Bentham has made a distinction between the following types of people, that is the expositors and censors. He said that the law is studied by many people, and he categorized that people into two categories, and accordingly he made the kinds of jurisprudence or the types of jurisprudence. There are primarily two types of jurisprudence: expositorial jurisprudence and censorial jurisprudence. Expositorial jurisprudence means it is the branch of law which explains what the law in practice was or is. The actual law, this kind of people deals with the law which is in practice. Therefore, this is known as law as it is. The Bentham has focused on this aspect. It is the only subject of study of law according to Bentham. Also, he suggested there are another kind of people who was known as a censorial jurisprudence. They always censors or looks to the existing law with a doubt, and therefore this kind of people criticize the law in practice and always compare it to their notions of what it ought to be. These kind of people always suggest that the law is insufficient and it needs to be reformed or reenacted, and therefore this is known as a law is ought to be. And this is not a branch of law according to Jeremy Bentham, but these are the people who always criticize the law. Further, though the Austin has developed the philosophy of law, he considered to explain the real law is the job of expositor rather than to study the criticism of the censor. It means, according to Bentham, we should focus only on the expositorial jurisprudence. As we know, expositors means who believe in law as it is, and censors who believe the law as it ought to be. We should not concentrate or focus on this kind of people, but we should be strict to study the law as it is. This is the belief of Bentham, which is later on accepted by Austin. His follower John Austin has made a significant contribution, and therefore he is known as a father of or a founder of analytical school, the John Austin. Let's see how he has elaborated his theory. The Austin's goal was to transform law into a true science. Like other pure sciences, he believed that the law should be studied as a science, and therefore the scientific study of law has been coined or has been made by the Austin. This theory is known as analytical jurisprudence. The study of Austin is divided into two areas. As a utilitarian, Austin believed that the laws should promote the greatest happiness of the society, which is also known as the greatest happiness of greatest number of people. That is a utilitarian. The law should promote the happiness. And second thing is as an empirical. All the key concepts in this account, that is the law, sovereign, command, sanction, duty, are defined in terms of empirically verifiable social facts. Now this is a kind of research attitude of John Austin. He says that the key concepts which are used in a law, the law which is necessary to promote the happiness, that all key concepts should be verifiable with the social facts. Means the law should be studied as a law as it is, and that existing or the present law should be verified with other social facts. And therefore in our earlier video we have seen the relation of jurisprudence with other social sciences. This relation is necessary to test whether that law is causing greatest happiness of society or not. Further, in general term, we can say the positive law means a law said by men to men, that is law made by political superior to law made by politically inferior people. This is three types of positive law. What are it? A law, first, laws said by a political superiors to their subjects. This is called as a so-called or a positive law. Second, laws said by men who are not political superior. And third, rules improperly but by analogy termed as a law. For example, law of fashion or the gravitational force or the law of gravitation, etc. This is called as a positive morality. Austin has separated positive law from positive morality. Here we can say the law, according to Austin, is a two kinds. Law properly so called, which is known as a positive law, and law improperly so called, which is known as a positive morality. And he said the law student shall focus only on the law properly so called or on the positive law. The positive morality is not a branch to be studied by the law student. That is, whether the law in practice is useful or not, it is the part of sociologists and not the lawyers. Next, the Austin said the existence of law is one thing and its merit and demerit is another. Means the law in existence should be studied as it is. Whether it has any merit or it is disadvantageous to the society, it is the matter to be studied by the sociologists and other social scientists like economics, psychologists, psychiatrists, etc. But the law should focus only on the existence of law. For example, CPC, that is a code of civil procedure, it should be studied as it is. Whether it is good or bad, whether it is workable or not workable, it is decided by other social scientists like a political activist. Next, he said law in its literal sense is a rule laid down for the guidance of an intelligent being by an intelligent being having power over him. That is, A person who has a politically superior power or an superior intelligence, he can let down the rule for the guidance of another intelligence being. And therefore, here the law is sensed, can be understood only by the intelligent people, or we can say only by the civilized person. For uncivilized or immature society, law cannot work, and therefore, according to Austin, this is a kind of filter which he applied, that the law is a rule only for the intelligent people and which is made by superior intelligent people. Next, study of law is confined only to the positive law, that is the law as it is or a law as a positus, that is law properly so called. Law improperly so called is a positive morality and it is not a study of law. Next, in his writing, the Austin has said the province of jurisprudence determined. He has laid down the framework of jurisprudence, where the Austin embraced Hobbes and Bentham's conception of law as a sovereign command. We have seen Thomas Hobbes, who have sown the seeds of positivism while studying the natural law theory. Hobbes has laid down that the sovereign authority should have power over the subjects, and it is the duty of sovereign authority to take care or to protect the people, and therefore the Austin has studied Bentham as well as Hobbes. Later on, the criterion for validity of legal wrong or legal rule is the warrant of the sovereign and enforced by the sovereign power and its agent. Means the law can be made only by the sovereign authority or by its agent, for example either by the parliament or either by the executive or judicial authority who has power from the parliament. Next, Austin has rejected the principles of natural law and expounded the rule of utility with logical accuracy. Of course, he has rejected the principles of natural law. He has not said that it is not applicable, but he said we cannot believe on a law which is not in existence, or the law which is imaginary, hypothetical, cannot be relied upon. Whereas he said it is necessary to lay down the rule of law with utility and with logical accuracy. And therefore the analytical school, which is known as the Austinian school, is the methodology of studying law, and it is set up by John Austin. It is imperative school because it regards law as a direction of the sovereign. Therefore, it is also known as an imperative school. Imperative school studies the impact of sovereign authority, and later on the Dias has termed this methodology as positivism. Then the next very important aspect of theories of Austin, he said that the law is a command of sovereign that are enforced by a threat of sanction. While defining what is meant by law, he has given a definition of law. According to Austin, law is a command of sovereign which is issued by uncommanded commander, that is the sovereign authority who is a politically superior, who has no other external control. Such authority is known as a commanding authority or the sovereign authority. For example, in military, the commanding officer has a supreme power over the battalion. Such commands are enforced by sanction. If any person who violates the command, who refuses to observe the command, then he has to suffer punishment or a sanction. And third, a sovereign is one who is obeyed by the majority. In general, the sovereign authority is obeyed by majority because it is a politically superior authority. There are certain key concepts in the theories of Austin. According to Austin, laws are meant by rules. In his definition, he has said that the law is made by the sovereign authority, or law is a command of sovereign authority. Then what is sovereign authority? Sovereign means in any legal system there is a group or groups of persons or a parliament which is habitually obeyed by the people. Person gives or surrender their rights to a certain person who may be termed as a president or a chairman or a parliament or a person heading the society, and he has sovereign means generally people obey that person. He issues the command. A command means is a declared wish of that something should be done, which is issued by a superior or a sovereign authority, and it is accompanied by threats of sanction in the event of non-compliance. If that command is not followed by a person, then he has to suffer a punishment. Legal sanction means power to punish for non-compliance of laws which are command in nature. That command is to be treated as a legal duties to obey. Means we cannot say that the command or the duty is optional in nature. No, once the command is issued, once the order is issued, then you have to obey it. There is no other way, there is no option to it. According to Austin, law is a social fact and reflects relations of power and obedience. Of course, he has said that the law should be studied in isolation, law as it is, but he knows that the law is a social fact and it reflects relations of power and obedience, the power of politically superior and obedience by the political inferior subject. This twofold view suggests that law and morality are separate and that all human-made or positive laws can be traced back to human lawmakers. Since the development of human beings on the earth, this law is in practice, and therefore this is known as a legal positivism. In all, we can say that the Austin was the first legal thinker to work out a fully developed positivist theory of law. Then this branch of law is further developed by H.L.A. Hart, that is a Professor Herbert Lionel Adolphus Hart. He has developed this theory of positivism in Next Horizon. According to him, when there is a law, the human conduct is non-optional or obligatory, as we have seen. Austin has said that the law is a command in nature and there is a legal duty. Whenever law is there, it is the legal duty. The same thing has been said by Hart. When there is a law, when law means a command, then human conduct, that is a obedience to the law, becomes non-optional or obligatory. However, the Hart is known as a soft positivist because later on, means at the end of his theories, he also turned towards the natural law theory. He said there are limitations to the positivism, therefore the natural law should be collaborative to the positivism. In 1958, he found common usage of positivism, that laws are commands of human beings and there is no any necessary relation between law and morality, that is between law as it is and law is at to be. Therefore, earlier the Hart was considered as a positivist because he said laws are commands of human being and there is no relation between law and morality. Analysis or study of the meaning of legal concept is worthwhile and is to be distinguished from history or analogy of law or its moral values or to its social aims or functions. He said the law should be studied as it is. The law should be studied within its strict framework. It should be distinguished from the history, sociology, moral values, social aims and functions, etc. According to Hart, a legal system is a closed logical system. This is a very important part of his theory. He said legal system is a closed logical system, means once the law is made, There is no way out. You have to follow it. Further, he said, a legal system is a closed logical system in which correct decisions can be deduced from predetermined legal rules without reference to social considerations. Means the law should be studied as it is. This is a paragraph for the purpose of interpretation of law. Whenever the law is in question, then it should be decided on the basis of earlier decisions or predetermined legal rules, which is based on the parliamentarian law, but without reference to social considerations. There should not be social consideration. And therefore, the moral judgments cannot be established, or neither it can be defended by a rational argument or by evidence or proof. Means the moral judgments, moral consciousness, social consideration should not be involved while defining the law. And when in general terms we can say on this paragraph that the law should not be emotional. While deciding the law, the strict proof, the strict evidence is necessary. Further, Hart says that laws are command of human beings, and further he divided that law into two parts, that is the internal consideration of law and external consideration of law. The internal consideration of law, according to Max Weber, it is the legal perspectives of law, and this is the only branch of law to be studied. For example, the Austin and Hart has said it is the only internal consideration of law, that is within the law itself we have to find solution. But external consideration of law, which is a sociological perspective of law and which should be kept aside. Next, the Hart has said that the law as a union of primary and secondary rules. According to Hart, there are two kinds of rules, primary rules and secondary rules. Primary rules are duty imposing in nature, whereas secondary rules are right conferring in nature. Primary rules means rules which forbids or require certain actions and can generate duties or obligations. These are the laws which develops or generates duties or obligation. Of course, the duty which is proclaimed by the command of sovereign. And secondary rules are rules set up the procedures through which primary rules can be introduced, modified or enforced. Means for the introduction, for the implementation of primary rules, secondary rules are necessary. Therefore, these are right conferring in nature means it gives right to the sovereign authority in case of breach of primary rules. In case of breach of duty, the sovereign or the parliament or the law or the government has a right to punish for its non-observance. There are therefore certain rules which any social organization must contain, and it is these facts of human nature which afford a reason for postulating a minimum content of natural law. Now here again the Hart has turned back towards the natural law. He said positive law is there, the law is made by man for another man, but while making such a law, there should have certain minimum content of natural law. Now what are those minimum content of law? Let's see. As we have seen in the earlier slide, that the law means rules, primary rules which is duty imposing in nature, for example criminal law which governs the human conduct, and secondary rules are power conferring in nature. Now these are three kinds of power: a rule of recognition, a rule of change and a rule of adjudication. A rule of recognition is a rule by which any member of society may check to discover what the primary rules of society are. Means through law, through codifications, through government resolution, we can recognize that the law is passed by the supreme authority. Second, a rule of change by which existing primary rules might be created, altered or abolish. That is a kind of amendment made to the original law. And third, a rule of adjudication by which the society might determine when a rule has been violated and prescribe a remedy. Whenever rule is violated, then it has to be adjudged by the judicial authority. Therefore, this is known as a secondary rules. Now moving towards on relation between legal validity and morality. Here the Hart turns back towards the naturalism. According to Hart, the rule of recognition may incorporate as a criteria of legal validity in conforming with moral principles or substantive values. There is a core of good sense in the doctrine of natural law. Now here he believes that if any positive law, that is a law made by man for another man, whether that law is good or bad, it should be decided on the basis of moral principles, that with what object the law is being made. Though the object clause is there in every law, but that object clause has to be looked into from the perspective of political will. And here comes the doctrine of natural law. It is known as a minimum content of morality. Without such a content, means without a good object or with a good intention, laws and morals could not forward the minimum purpose of survival which men have in association with each other. Means only law cannot serve the purpose of society, but that law with morality could serve the purpose of survival of men and society as such. According to Hart, what is the minimum content of morality? The Hart acknowledges that there is a necessary connection between law and human nature, and it is based on the truism, that is with procedural fairness. Here Hart believes that the law cannot only serve the purpose without acknowledging the human nature, and human nature has certain categories. For example, vulnerability to violence, approximate equality, limited altruism, limited resources, and limited understanding and strength of the will. Means here, please understand with a focus that the law cannot serve the purpose of the society. Law alone cannot do anything without considering the human nature. And human nature is such, it is always tended towards violence. It is always tended towards equality and inequality. It has certain limited altruism, that is a limited will or limited, what we can say, the resources, and limited understanding and strength of the will. We cannot expect that a civilized person and uncivilized person will follow the law in same fashion, or literate people and illiterate people will follow the law in same manner, or we cannot always compare each and every person on the touchstone of law. We should expect or we shall accept that the human nature is varying in nature. Next is a Professor Joseph Raz. He has developed the theory which is originally propounded by Bentham, Austin, and later on by he said that in his book The Morality of Freedom, which is known as for the conception of perfectionist liberalism. Now, what is perfectionist liberalism? It is defined by Charles Larmor in 1987 as the family of views that based political principles on ideals claiming to shape our overall conceptions of the good life and not just our role as a citizen. Here, perfectionist, this is a further development of positivism. Please, perfectionist liberalism is the next generation of positivism. And what is perfectionist liberalism? It is the family of views, or we can say it is a group of such kind of people who believes that there are ideals claiming to shape our overall conceptions of the good life. Means our good life is not limited in a legal aspect, but there are other social aspects which makes our life complete or enjoyable. Professor Raj has also argued, and contrary to the H.L.A. Hart, that the validity of law can never depend on its morality. But the existence and content of law must be based only on social facts and not on moral arguments. Further, he says in moral theory, value pluralism and the idea that various values are incommensurable. Now, what is value pluralism and incommensurable in nature? Value pluralism means ethical pluralism or moral pluralism, means there are more morals and ethical aspects. Ethical pluralism means the idea that there are several values which may be equally correct and fundamental, yet in conflict with each other. Means at the same time we cannot say this thing is good and this thing is bad, because everything has a necessary correlation with their precedents, and therefore each and every value is equally correct, but it may be in conflict with each other. Next, he also defended the idea of incommensurable or incomparable, means when two values or norms or reason or goods, when they do not share a common standard of measurement or cannot be compared to each other in a certain way. Means we cannot say outrightly that this person is done a good thing and that person has done bad thing. Good and bad depends upon the values or the maturity level of that persons. To summarize the theory of positivism, we can say that the Bentham and Austin has made a significant contribution in the study of law. Particularly, the Austin has made a scientific arrangement of English law, which has created a great impact on the Commonwealth nations such as Australia and India is the follower of English jurisprudence. The idea of legislation and having a parliament house is the development of Austin. The concept of minimum content of morality is well established and universally accepted principle of law, and therefore today's our system is based on the ideology of Austin. Hope you like the video. Please watch more videos on my channel, like and subscribe it and share if possible. There are many videos on natural law theory, relation of jurisprudence with other social sciences, and many others on constitution and rules of interpretation. So please stay tuned and watch the videos on my channel. I hope you like it. Thank you. Thank you very much.